Everyone in sales? Okay. Does anybody own their own business? Okay. About 2 thumbs up. How many of those who own their own business are solopreneurs? One person, just yourself. Okay. The reason why I ask is if you are a solopreneur, you're both the salesperson and the executive within your company. And that can be a little taxing. Right now I'm a solopreneur, but I've also owned several big companies. They're big to me. I built my first multi-million-dollar company when I was 28, second one when I was 34. Primarily in IT was where I started out, and then moved into some other things. My primary focus right now is on nonverbal communication skills. Is what I work with people on, and there's a lot to nonverbal communication because people tend to think of nonverbal communication as, what do you think of when I say nonverbal communication? Body language. That's what everybody thinks about nonverbal communication is. Voice is also nonverbal communication. Not words, but voice. And actually, your words can become nonverbal communication if you know how to use them. So what we're going to talk about, we'll talk about a couple of different things today in regards to body language, but not specifically training body language so much, but to talk to you a little bit about how body language works. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is impressions, first impressions. Does anyone here know how long it takes to make a first impression? 5 seconds. Anybody else? 7? 2. Anybody else? Actually, there are 5 character traits that were studied by Princeton University. They are attractiveness, likability, trustworthiness, competence, and aggressiveness. Those 5 character traits were studied by flashing pictures of people's face in front of the subjects at 1/10 of a second, 1/2 of a second, and 1 second. They used a control group that had no time limit whatsoever. They could look at the pictures as long as they want. The people who looked at the picture for 1/10 of a second correlated almost exactly with the people who had no time limit. So basically it takes us 1/10 of a second to form an opinion about someone in those 5 areas. How many thoughts? Actually, the researchers have said that they expect that number to go down as they continue to study, because the human brain works so quickly that we make a formulation almost instantly when we perceive. We do that through what, has anybody ever heard of the term transderivational search? Fun words I get to use. Okay, transderivational search is something that your brain does every time it encounters something new, or every time it's asked to recall. So if I say the dog, you formulate a picture of a dog in your mind that instantly. But what your brain has done is gone all the way back to your birth and picked every picture of a dog that it has recorded up to this moment. And then it correlates that and sends you a picture of a dog that best matches your context. So if I say, and this is a little bit of the linguistic stuff, if I say the dog was blue, then I force you to cognitively think of a dog, and then you have to change it because did anybody have a blue dog? So what happens is your conscious mind has to stop your subconscious and say, wait, we got to paint the dog blue. So then you have to paint the dog blue. If I say the dog was blue and bit me, now you got to stop twice to go back and reform the dog. But if I say I was bitten by a blue dog, then there is no stop. I speak straight to your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind has no need to analyze what I just said. So that makes verbal communication nonverbal. But when we make our first impressions, they are based strictly on face. Our first impression we make on someone. So does anybody know what an RBF is? Do you? You know what it is? Okay. Okay. Resting, and pardon my language, resting bitch face. Okay. I have a terrible RBF. Okay. It's not that I'm unhappy, not that I'm frowning, it's just that's my normal face. So when someone comes in and they see me, if I'm using my normal face, they probably won't consider me to be a real likable person. They may think of me as, a competent person, but not necessarily as likable, and not nearly as approachable as someone who sees me smile. So, and I'm not saying, walk around with a stupid looking smile pasted on your face either, because then people think you're weird. Okay? But if I'm talking to Tyler, and what's your name? Mike. And Mike walks in the room, and Tyler and I are having a conversation that's lighthearted, and I'm smiling when I'm talking to him. The first impression you get is me smiling. You'll find me much more likable, much more approachable. If he and I are having an argument, you probably wouldn't want to approach. You know, you wouldn't see us as likable. So that's something that you need to consider whenever you're when you're interacting with people, is make sure that, you know, not necessarily have a dopey grin on your face, but at least have, you know, a brighter face. You know, make your face a little bit brighter, eyes open a little bit wider. You know, make it so that you become approachable to other people and instantly likable, trustworthy, attractive if you're lucky enough to be attractive, which I am not. So you get that going for you. Did you know that attractive people get further in almost every aspect of life? They get more advantages than anyone else, than like an ugly person. That's why I've had to fight so hard to get everything done. A person with a harder face, an aged face, will get harsher judgments in court than a person with a baby face. And these are proven statistics that they've studied. So there's some things that we can't help, there's some things that we can. But like I say, keep yourself light and, you know, make your face as bright as you can. Also, when you move out of the face, by the way, those bones are almost impossible to break. If you see me and you think I'm likable in that 10th of a second, it's very hard for me to undo that thought in your mind. I can, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So if you saw me and Tyler arguing and you thought, wow, he's a really aggressive person, and then I talk to you, it's going to take you some time to know me, to know that I'm not that aggressive of a person, which I am. So, or not approachable. So anyway, that's something on the face. Now the rest of the body also tells a story. Now, we watch people, the police song, does anybody know Every Breath You Take? The police song? Every breath you take, every step you take, every move you make, they're watching. And people are watching. So when you're standing talking to someone, if I'm talking to Tyler, and you got the lucky seat, if I'm talking to Tyler and I'm standing upright, got my head up, got my shoulders down and back, then that makes a statement about me. But if I'm standing here talking to him and I'm talking to him like this, that also makes a statement about me. What would this posture tell you? Could be tired. I'm making myself very small.
Not confident.
Lack of confidence is a big one. And so when you're talking with people, make sure that your body is open as much as possible. Keep your hands up and open. It says I have no weapons in my hands, so I'm non-threatening. So if we're arguing and I've got my hands up, then that says a little bit different about the argument. You know, I'm trying to make a point. I may be aggressive, but I'm aggressively trying to make a point. But if I got my hands this way and I'm talking to him, can you feel the difference just from flipping my hands over? If I'm making a point to him and I've got my hands this way, I'm very emphatically trying to make a point. So just turning your hands from up to down makes a huge difference in the way that you're perceived by other people and perceived by the person. You don't have to be trained in body language to understand body language to a certain degree. You may not understand why you understand, but you will. Your subconscious, this is primitive stuff, this is caveman stuff. Your body picks up, there's more communication going back and forth non-verbally by far than is verbally when you're in a one-on-one situation. The proximity to a person, like I say, your hand position, your posture, your facial expressions, all of this is creating a picture in the back of your mind of who that person is. Unfortunately, most of the time that impression is wrong, but it does it anyway. So, lost my train of thought. So when you're talking with someone, make sure that you do what I was talking about. Proximity. Does anybody know anything about proxemics? Okay, proxemics is basically your proximity to someone else. So like 20 feet is public space. I'm 20 feet away. And then it moves on down to intimate space, which is like 12, 16 inches or less. What happens though is if you're a person and if we're just talking and I step right up into your intimate space, you're going to immediately go into fight flight. You're going to get uncomfortable. I knew a guy that he used to forever. He would stay in your intimate space when he talked to you. You crawl all over. It's like you get off of me. But that's the way he was. He was a very touchy-feely person. He liked to be close to people. He's an I personality. If you've ever had any of the personality training, that's just the way he was. And so you're constantly backing up. Now, how many here have ever met a person or had a meeting with someone, and after everything in the meeting went right, but at the end of the meeting you're like, I just don't like that person. I don't know why. I just don't know. Well, part of it is that facial expression, the facial recognition thing where you instantly formed a judgment. But also what happens is, and this is critically important for salespeople, is the vocal message you're presenting is not matching the nonverbal message that your body's sending. It's just like I was talking about making yourself small. If I'm making a presentation about a big ticket item and how great it is for your company, and I do this the whole time, well, you're not going to have any confidence that what I do is good for you, even if it's the best thing possible for you, even if it's the very best solution. It makes people uncomfortable when someone talks and does this, because you start to lose confidence in what I'm saying. But if I'm open and my shoulders are down and back, my head is up, then I come across more forcefully and more competently and confident. So when you're making your presentations, if you do things like fidget, mess with paper, pick fluff, adjust your cuff lengths or your shirt cuff, touching your collar, touching your face, when you do these things, you're basically sending a signal that I have no confidence in what I just said. If I say this is exactly what you need, then basically I've told you I don't think it is. I've broken my confidence and my confidence with him. So he's in the back of his mind, even if he doesn't pick it up, did you know that when I said that?
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah. Kind of. But not really to say, he made a point and touched his face. So one of the values of the training that I've gotten and that I give is that it teaches people to cognitively understand what normally they would unconsciously understand. And it makes it much more clear, and it makes it easier for you to navigate around. I watched a speech one time by a person who had added a new segment in their speech. And they were doing a great job, body language is awesome. They got to that point and they rubbed their hands together just for a couple of seconds. And then they moved on to the rest of their speech. Well, I asked the person, did you add something new to your speech today? And yeah, I knew you had, because you lost confidence when you got to that new part, because you rubbed your hands together when you made that point, and then you moved back into your regular body language. So being able to cognitively understand things like that is where you need to be. I'm out of time, but if anybody has any questions about body language, first impressions, what they might be able to change, minor, major, whatever, I'd be glad to talk to you. Thank you.
Awesome.